This is Catholic Forum. I'm Bob Krebs. Ashling Redican is the fundraising and communications manager for the Xavier Society for the Blind, an organization that provides religious, spiritual, and inspirational reading materials in Braille and audio to blind and visually impaired individuals worldwide. Ashling, thanks so much for being with us today on the program. It's a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here.
We're going to talk about your wonderful organization. Before we get into that, let's get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would, please.
Sure. So, as you said, I'm the communications and fundraising manager here at Xavier Society for the Blind. I'm a native New Yorker, and I've been here for about 9 years. It'll be 9 years in December. So,
What drew you to this type of ministry?
I really connected to the mission. But when I first saw the job posting, they were looking for someone who specifically could lift heavy boxes because we had a Braille Bible um, stored in a church a few blocks from where we were located at the time. And I was bartending, and I was like, you know what? I lift heavy stuff all the time. And like I said, I connected to the mission, and I was raised Catholic, cradle Catholic. So I thought, I could do that. So that's what really drew me.
So you have the you like the mission, and you're strong. So that that brought you.
Yeah, probably a little stronger 9 years ago than I am now,
Aren't we all?
yeah.
So the Xavier Society for the Blind has quite a long history. I was surprised to see how long you folks have been in existence. Tell us about the history, if you would, please.
Sure. So next year we'll be celebrating our 125th anniversary. We were founded in 1900 by a blind woman who taught blind children. And she was really frustrated that her students didn't have access to the faith formation materials that their sighted classmates had access to. So she said, you know what? I'm going to create Xavier Society for the Blind and make sure that things like the catechism and other materials are available for these children. And she teamed up with a Jesuit priest named Father Joseph Stadelman, and he had worked with deaf Catholics. But he met Margaret, and she said, "You know what? This is what I'm thinking, and can you help me out?" And he jumped on board, and here we are, 124 years later. So thank God, we're still providing our materials to those in need, not just to children, but people of all ages worldwide.
Yeah. It's amazing how just one idea that one layperson or single person might have, and how that can just blossom into 125 years of helping spread the gospel and help catechize those people who are sight impaired. So yeah, that's an amazing story. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible. And Margaret Coffey, I'm not sure if I mentioned her full name when I introduced her, but she was actually our first donor. So she donated $350 of her own money in 1900, which we did a back of the envelope calculation, and it came out to about $13,000 in 2024 money. So she was our first donor as well as our foundress.
So what are some of the items that you make available in Braille, for instance?
Sure. So our largest line of service is the Braille Mass propers. So essentially, these are the missalettes for Mass. They include the readings, prayers, responses to the Mass on Sundays and special feast days. And a lot of our clients use these to lector in their parishes. So that's probably our biggest line of service. We also provide hundreds of Braille books, ranging, from books on prayer to biographies of saints to other meditative and inspirational works. And it's all free of charge. So these materials are available to people, who are blind and visually impaired all over the world.
Then you also make audio service available. Tell us about that, if you would, please.
Sure. So our audiobooks are in a format called talking book format. And in 2019, we transitioned to this format so that our audiobooks would be compatible with the machines from the National Library Service for the blind and print disabled. And I actually have one of the players here.
Oh, interesting.
So the audiobook would just kind of fit right in there. And it's very user friendly for people living with sight loss. There's, Braille on it too. If the person is a Braille reader, they can feel what the different buttons are for. So we provide a lot of talking books for people who might have lost sight later in life and don't read Braille, but they still need access to books about their faith and spiritual works, things like that. So we actually yesterday just released the New Testament of the New American Bible, the Revised Edition. So yeah, this is the translation approved by the USCCB. And this player that I showed earlier is used by over 500,000 people throughout the United States. So we're hoping to make the New American Bible, available, to all of them.
Wow.
And so we're hoping the New Testament is just released, but the Old Testament we're just finishing up, so that'll be ready soon.
That's amazing. I can imagine that there'll be a great demand for that New Testament.
Yeah, so we've had a deluge of messages come in within the last 24 hours from our patrons requesting it, and we're sure once we spread the word to the network libraries throughout the United States and other organizations working with the blind, it'll be huge. We hear all the time people are looking for accessible Bibles, and we do actually have the New American Bible in Braille and downloadable in large print as well. So that is, it's great to have those formats accessible.
Tell us a little bit about what you have available to visually impaired children and for the Spanish speakers among us.
Sure. So, as I mentioned, Margaret Coffey, when she founded us back in 1900, she wanted her students to have access to materials for them to prepare for the sacraments. And that is still a priority for us. So each year we are taking requests for children in CCD. We also take requests for adults in RCIA. But it's mainly children making their communions, confirmations, things like that. And one textbook in print rather, could equal up to like 7 Braille volumes. So it's pretty large.
Wow.
But we're happy to make that available, and that's free. Everything we do is free of charge. So.
And Spanish language as well.
Right. So one of our main initiatives over the last couple of years is to make Braille and audiobooks available in Spanish. So we have books about the Rosary, the Bible. We have one title in Spanish. It's 365 Days with the Saints. And I could attempt to pronounce it in Spanish, but I don't want to butcher that. But in addition to that, we also have the readings for Mass on Sundays available in electronic Braille ready format. So if a Braille reader has what is called a Braille display, they can download the electronic Braille file to that display and bring it to Mass and read along with the readings and things like that.
It's amazing what technology can do these days. Yeah. Tell us about the St. Lucy Mass too, please.
Sure. So on December 13th, we celebrate the feast of St. Lucy. And for anyone who doesn't know, St. Lucy is the patron saint of the blind. And we celebrate a Mass here in New York City. We have a blind priest come up from Kentucky. He's from the Diocese of Owensboro. And he's blind and gets our Braille materials, and he celebrates the Mass. We have other clients participate as lectors. In the past few years, we've had our younger clients participate, bringing up the gifts, things like that. So it's just a great event celebrating the blind community. It's fantastic. And we have people not just travel from across the country to be with us, but we live stream the Mass. Mm-hmm. So people all over the world tune in, watch this Mass, comment, send their prayer intentions. And it's just, every year it gets bigger and bigger. And it's just an amazing event.
Where do you hold that Mass?
We hold it here in New York. The past few years, we've had it at St. Francis Xavier Parish on 15th Street. Mm-hmm. And we started there basically back in 1900. So it's like going back to our roots. Mm-hmm. We're founded in Xavier College, which is now Xavier High School, which is next door to St. Francis Xavier Parish. So we go back to our roots the past few years, but we have in the past celebrated it at St. Patrick's Cathedral. So that was fun during, December. It's just crazy up there and very busy. So it's a little quieter down by St. Francis Xavier.
Yeah. My guest today on Catholic Forum is Aisling Redican, and she is with the Xavier Society for the Blind. For almost 125 years, they've been helping our blind and visually impaired brothers and sisters to participate in the Mass and to read the Bible and to get spiritually uplifting articles and books that they can read either using Braille or through audio, and it's a great organization. You mentioned that blind priest from the Diocese of Owensboro, Kentucky. Can you tell us about some of the other people that you serve, your clients, or you also call them patrons, which I think is a good term. Tell us a few success stories, if you would.
Sure. So our patrons are so diverse. They're lay and religious. In addition to Father Jamie, we have a lot of nuns to receive our services. Actually, one of our Braille proofreaders is a blind nun in the Diocese of Arlington, and she's amazing. We have so many incredible clients. We actually, last week, we were in Washington, D.C. for a conference. And one of our clients was actually a speaker at this conference. Her name is Dr. Sherry Wells Jensen, and she works for NASA. So she's just incredible, and she's just awesome. But I'm trying to think of some other great clients we serve. For me, a success story is hearing when patrons call up and they say, I get your propers and I'm able to follow along with Mass or even lector at Mass. And people comment on my eye contact because I'm looking up the whole time and I'm reading. And just for them to be able to connect with their faith, with, their fellow parishioners, that for me is a success story. So, it's the little things.
So how can folks take advantage of your services? Are they, and as you mentioned, they're free, correct?
Yeah, everything we provide is free of charge, and there is no fee to register with us, and we try to make it as easy as possible to sign up. So there's a few ways. You can call us over the phone, and there's two numbers. One is a toll-free. It's 800-637 9193, and our other number is 212-473-7800. And if you call either of those numbers, you can chat with our client services coordinator, Saul Buchalter, and he'd be happy to give you information on, accessing our application, which is one page long, or he can send that to you via email. As I said, we try to make it as easy as possible for people to sign up. So if they already receive services from the National Library Service for the blind and print disabled, we just need the registrant's name, contact info, date of birth, things like that. And we can verify that info with the NLS, and just to make the process a little more streamlined and quicker. People can always email us at info@xaviersocietyfortheblind.org for more information. We're also really active on social media, and I encourage anyone to check out our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. We're always posting, our new books in Braille and audio, inspirational client stories, and just news pertaining to the organization. So there's a number of ways to get in touch. You can also visit our website for more information, and that is Xavier Society for the Blind.org.
Very good. I think it's I didn't dawn on me ahead of time, but obviously you know it, that it was important for those who might be listening, who might be hearing impaired, or or visually impaired or blind, to give those phone numbers. So yeah. So if you maybe before we end today, you could give the phone numbers once again.
Sure.
How about for people who are listening, or if they're watching on YouTube, how can they help? How can they help with your mission and get more information?
Sure. So since we provide everything free of charge, we actually rely on small family foundations, individual donors. We get a number of bequests each year. So in terms of fundraising, we welcome donations. But we're always saying the biggest thing for us is get the word out. So if you know someone who was recently diagnosed with macular degeneration or cataracts, glaucoma, and they're having trouble reading regular print, they need large print, they need audio. Or if you know someone who's been blind since birth and they read Braille but don't have access to anything to help them develop and practice their faith, just getting the word out. And I've noticed probably in the last 18 months or so, a lot of dioceses across the country are celebrating special needs masses and masses for people with disabilities. And this is awesome. So we've been sending a lot of informational materials to these dioceses to have displayed at these masses. And, people show up and, they're losing their sight, or they know someone who is visually impaired or blind. And that just really helps us get the word out. So yeah, it's just a lot of it is just helping us spread the word. We've been around for 124 years, but we hear all the time, "Oh, I never knew you existed, and I wish I knew about you earlier," and things like that. So yeah, just help us get the word out.
Yeah, and I'm happy to hopefully this program will help in that regard as well. It seems like you really enjoy your job, Aisling. Tell us, what do you like most about your work?
I guess it is hearing from people, that they really enjoy our materials, and it's made the world of a difference for them in terms of practicing their faith, and especially for the kids. When you see these kids and they're preparing to make their communions, and they're so cute, and they're just so happy to read about Jesus and Mary and the saints, and learn about their faith. So that for me is just the most enjoyable. But it also kind of hits hard when they say, "Oh, again, like I wish I knew about you earlier," and especially for older people who register, and they never knew we were around.
Good. Well, before I let you go, why don't you give the phone numbers again where folks can reach you and register and take advantage of your service?
Absolutely. So we have two phone numbers. One is toll free. It's 800-637-9193. And we have a second phone number. That's 212-473-7800.
That's great. Aisling Redican, thanks so much for taking time to be with us on Catholic Forum. Hopefully, some folks will hear this and take advantage, or maybe contact you to make a donation, and maybe tune into your YouTube channel for the St. Lucy Mass on December 13th. But we wish you well, and we hope God continues to bless you and your great ministry.
Thank you for having me. God bless.